What is up, everybody? Welcome to the final Drive for Show DFS for Dough program here for the 2023 calendar year. We've got the last golf tournament of the fall swing on tap with the RSM Classic this week, the traditional cap to the annual PGA Tour calendar. The whole schedule is going to be flip-flopped and adjusted starting next year, so everything will start to look a little bit different. We'll have some new faces on the PGA Tour, but we've got about a 6-week break here after this week. So we'll try to make this one count here, coming off of an interesting week last week where the 6-6 percentage, I think, in contest was maybe as high as I've ever seen for a full field event. Somewhere in the vicinity of like 25%, I think, of lineups got everybody through the cut last week. Pretty much all the chalk, made it through at least to the weekend. And remarkably, after we kind of laughed at Villegas last week, he goes out and wins the tournament. Kind of took it away from Alex Noren there on Sunday. Remarkable win for him. He was about 150 to 1 if you put a bet ticket on that. But yeah, chalky week. You probably didn't get anywhere if you didn't get 6 out of 6 through. So, of course, I'm Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth alongside. Noto, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. I was one of the 60% that didn't get 6 of 6, so I contributed to that. I saw Jason Sobel ended up tipping Vegas, so congrats to him for that one. And yeah, I was talking to you before the show. Just got done watching the Netflix Cup. I thought that was pretty cool. Justin Thomas and Carlos Sainz took it down. So yeah, I think it's the first F1 race in Vegas this weekend. But yeah,
I did hear that.
Hopefully they do more stuff like that moving forward.
Yeah, always interesting to get those cross-sport connections and stuff like that. So definitely something to check out if you've got some free time and you haven't seen that yet. But yeah, I mean, it was wild. I had a lineup in like the $20 or $15 contest on DraftKings, whatever it was, that had 5 guys inside the top 10 going into Sunday, including the leader at the time in Noren. And I was still like 20 points off the lead. And it was like I had the leader, 4 other top 10 guys, and then a guy that was like T18 or something at the time. And then there were still like 50 some odd people ahead of me. And then, of course, just one guy having a bad round on Sunday and you're toast as far as winning a GPP goes, because so much chalk hit last week. But I don't know if I have a whole lot of other takeaways. I mean, it was another week where we didn't have the shot-by-shot data, so tough to glean a whole lot statistically. Villegas with a pretty incredible performance, kind of come out of nowhere here these last couple tournaments. Part of the beauty of golf there when things like that happen. So other takeaways from that event for you?
Yeah, good to see Villegas back. He talked about, golf and how stressful it was and just trying to let the game come to him. So kind of cool to see him back in the winner's circle. I'm glad Alex Noren didn't win because he was the last guy left off my betting card. So that would have been pretty painful. And the story for me, I mean, both the Bryan bros ended up making the cut. The PGA Tour absolutely ran with that story. They were all over the interviews, but I thought it was kind of fun. Wesley ended up eking out George in their head-to-head battle, but it was pretty cool to see both of them make the cut.
I actually did after we talked about him on the show last week. I had a couple lineups where I really needed a punt, and I actually did put Wesley on a couple of rosters. And I had actually removed him from my following on the app because he was like 2 over after the first day. I'm like, well, there's no way he's coming back to make the cut. And he ended up shooting 7 under on Friday and making the cut on the numbers. So good for him. Just figured I'd throw him on a few for good luck after I said he was going to beat out his brother on the show. So, but alas, not enough to take a GPP down. Had some good lineups, but you needed to be nearly perfect in order to win last week, especially given the scoring conditions. Wins were up a little bit on the weekend, but still not enough to really test these PGA Tour guys. So anything else? You want to just move straight away here into the RSM here to close things out?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So like I mentioned, the usual event that we have here before the end of the season but a weird one in that it's features a 2-course rotation. So we don't see this a whole lot. We see it a little bit in the spring or the late winter, when the daylight hours are still pretty short. After we turn the calendar to the first of the year, you'll see a couple events that utilize a multi-course rotation, but this is the first one that we've seen in quite a while, probably since the spring at some point. I can't even remember what the last one was. But 2 courses in play prior to the cut, and then once the field gets trimmed down for the weekend, they just utilize the host course on the weekend. So what do we make of the 2 courses this week?
Yeah, so we'll start with the Seaside course, which is going to host 3 of the 4 rounds. It's a par 70, only 7,000 yards. Difficulties usually in the top 15 or so in terms of the easiest courses on tour. Really wide fairways, pretty big greens. But the defense is the water. It's in play on 13 of the holes. Then the Plantation course is a par 72, so you get those 4 par 5s. It's about the same length, so very short course for a par 72. The only difference that I see, the greens are a little bit smaller, and that course is tree line. So I do think we could see an edge for the golfers that start on the Plantation course, because Thursday looks pretty windy and rainy, and if that holds, the Seaside course is going to get the worst of it, being right out by the sea. So I think we could see a little bit of an edge there, but especially in Showdown, you definitely want to be targeting guys on the Plantation, especially on Thursday. Get those extra 2 par 5s, and then potentially the better weather draw as well. And historically, driving distance doesn't really matter here. You look at the guys that play well here, your Brian Harmon types, your Webb Simpsons, more plotters than distance. So definitely looking at guys that are better with their irons and can keep it in play at the tee. And probably going to be a putting contest, because that's what happens when you get these easy courses.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely don't need distance here. You look at, Webb, who you mentioned. Kisner's had some good results here, even when he wasn't in the best of form. He's certainly not a long hitter. So you don't necessarily have to, mandate, hey, my guy can't have any distance off the tee, but it's certainly not a prerequisite here. I think your points are well taken on the how to handle the 2 courses, particularly in Showdown. That's where you get the edge in these types of tournaments. So we will have the shot-by-shot data for the host course. The Plantation course will not have that. At least it hasn't in the past. For the rounds that are the single round that each golfer is going to play over there. So mainly ball strikers for me as well, and we'll certainly lean on some course history a little bit. This is an area where I mentioned it at the end of last week's show. A lot of the golfers have residences down here, so you see a lot of guys that tend to play here every year or really know the area, the Sea Island Mafia or whatever they want to call themselves. Or the moniker that's at least been thrown upon them. You'll see them, kind of pop up here as we go throughout the show. So, all right, so let's go ahead and just dig in here. We do have a larger field here this week than what we have seen with some of the other fall swing events. Some of them have either featured 144 or 132 golfers. This week we do have the full 156 in the field, which is part of the reason why they need to use the 2 courses the first couple of days. So the pricing, though, at the top, not really all that deep on DraftKings. First time in quite a while, we've only had 3 golfers above the 10K mark: Aubert, Cameron Young, and your boy Brian Harmon. We haven't seen him in a while. He's coming out of hibernation this week. Hasn't played during the fall swing at all. So those 3 guys at the top, do you need to try to jam one of them in? Do we prefer going a little more balanced this week with only a handful of guys up here at the top? Interested your thoughts on how to handle that.
Yeah, I'm not prioritizing any of the 3 up here. I think the balanced lineups look pretty good this week, especially since the driver is not all that important now. I will say Ludwig Aubert, he does have some motivation this week, so he's currently 53rd in the world. If he gets inside the top 50, he's going to qualify for the Masters. So if he has a good finish this week, that might bump him up. Looks like he's going to be popular. He's been tremendous pretty much the last 4 or 5 months. So no issue with him, but not a ton of interest in Cam Young or Brian Harmon. Young just hasn't been in that good form. And then Harmon, we just haven't seen a lot of him. You did mention the Sea Island Mafia. What do you make of them like so many of them have struggled here in their careers. What do you make of that?
Friday night partying after you play golf. I don't know. I mean, that's certainly could be some explanation for it.
Gotta go home to the wife and kids and
yeah. You know, one night you go out for a few beverages with the buddies, and another night, you got to go home to the kids, and I don't know, a little bit of variance in there as well. It's tough to say, but I'm really not putting a whole lot of stock into, you know, got to play this guy because he's here. Because he lives here, but if they've played well here in the past, more inclined to give him a little bit of a bump, I guess.
Yeah, I was just thinking like guys like Matt Kuchar, Brendan Todd, for whatever reason, they just don't play well here. But yeah, there's so many. I mean, half the golfers in the field probably have a train here, have a house here, whatever it may be. So I guess maybe I'm just picking and choosing.
Cherry picking. You're cherry picking. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's a fair point. There are a few of them that, you know, you kind of scratch your head a little bit. They play here every year and don't necessarily have the best track record. So hit or miss with some of them. Certainly you can use that if you want to in a tie-breaking scenario, but otherwise, you know, just play the guy that you think projects the best. Yeah, I mean, I think Aubert is the play if you're playing anybody up here. You know, Harman, we've got him as right now the second highest owned golfer in the field, which I think maybe that's a little bit hot, but I'm certainly not going to play him if he's anywhere close to 27% ownership. If I'm going to play a chalky guy up here, I'll play Aubert at 10-9. But I do agree with you. I think the logic of potentially starting with a balanced build makes a lot of sense. The whole 9K range, you can probably make a case for. Connor's another guy we haven't seen a whole lot of lately. Henley tends to play these types of courses. Noren obviously coming off a strong week last week, even though he couldn't pull it off at the end. Poston as a guy that has been in great form. I like him a lot this week. Justin Suh coming off a good week as well, his last time out. So lots of guys in decent form here in the 9K range, and you can certainly start off your balanced lineup with one or two of these guys. So your favorites in the 9Ks.
Yeah, so Russell Henley, he's the fifth most expensive golfer. He's number one in my model. He's number one in the RG model too, which I kind of like when they agree. You mentioned his form. It's been awesome. T13 or better in 4 straight. He hasn't played since the Tour Championship, but I think it's a perfect course fit for him. So I will be using a lot of Russell Henley. And then at the very bottom of the range, I like Eric Cole. He's one of the only golfers in the field that's top 5 in strokes gained approach, birdie or better, and bogey avoidance. So I like that combo. He can putt well too. And this is one of the few courses that he's actually seen a second time around. He finished T39 here last year. So yeah, I really like the spot for Eric Cole. Looks like he's gonna be popular, but I'm okay eating that chalk. He
finished T39 here last year, and he has finished top 10 in every single event since then. It seems like.
Yeah, last 4 events,
been a machine.
4th, 3rd, and 2nd. So yeah, the form is pretty good. Outside of that, I like Poston too. At 9,300, he's been in awesome form during the fall, and you know he's been really good with the irons. I think he's gained at least 4.5 strokes on approach in 4 of his last 5. And if you want a sleeper, I think you go right back to Alex Noren. Maybe he can pull the Vajegas of going 2nd the week before and then 1st the next week. He tends to be a streaky golfer. He's got a 10th and an 18th here, so if he's going to be overlooked, I don't mind being overweight on Noren.
Yeah, and it kind of surprises me. I think you might have written that in our content this week too, that, you know, the low ownership on a guy coming off a strong finish. Sometimes you see that with guys that are coming off a win. He's obviously not, but had a really strong week, you know, notwithstanding the fact that he wasn't able to pull it off. We both mentioned Poston, and if you go back to the John Deere in July, Poston's results since then: T6, T6, T41, T2, T7, T24, T22, T3. So no miscuts since June. That's 5 top 10s in 8 starts for Poston. No, he's a member of the Live Down Here group. The last 5 years at this event, 3 miscuts and 2 top 25s. So it does tend to be a little boomer bust, but I think he's certainly a strong upside play for your GPPs. So he's probably the guy I'll be the most overweight on here. We've got him at 13%, which is perfectly reasonable. Noren, who Noto mentioned, we've got at 12. I think those two guys If they're going to be the lowest owned of this group, sign me up for those guys in GPPs. I've got no problem with Henley, no problem with Connors, and obviously no problem with the top 10 machine that is Eric Cole. But my top 3 in terms of my ownership in here will probably be Cole, Poston, and Noren. So, anything else in this range that you want to talk about?
No, I hope one of those 3 at least plays well. Bet on all 3 of them. So yeah, Cole, Poston, and Noren. Let's get a W.
I have not looked at the odds. Are they in the 30 range? 25?
So yeah, Poston and Cole are both 30 to 1. I think I saw 33 on one of them, and then Noren's at 40 right now.
Oh wow, I like those. Respectable odds there on a field that's not super heavy at the top. I mean, this feels, I don't know. Is this the type of field strength we usually get here? For me, I felt like maybe we used to get a little bit more at the top for this tournament. Maybe not. I could just be.
I think it's just because a lot of the guys that usually play well they usually play here are just bad now. Webb,
Yeah.
and Kuchar, and Zach Johnson. Like they used to be good, so it was a better field.
That's true. Horschel, Kisner.
Yeah.
Lots of those guys. They're just down the board a little farther now. Fair point. And kind of didn't put that together. All right. If you've been playing Jaeger all fall, this is a chance to get him at a discount. He's down to 8,800 this week. Leads off that 8K range along with Kuchar, who you just mentioned there, Denny McCarthy, Adam Svensson, Brendan Todd. I think most of the people that do a balanced build are going to start with a couple guys in the 9s. Because they do project better than these guys in the 8s. And in fact, we don't have anybody in the 8Ks above 15% projected ownership right now. Not that these guys are bad players. The people are just going to start up in the 9K range. I think Jaeger is really interesting if he's going to be 8% owned now that he's down to 8,800. It's a little bit of a stronger field than what we've seen with some of these events, but still like his chances here. Especially since, the rest of this 8K range, I just don't love. I like getting into the 9s, so I probably won't have a ton of these guys in my player pool. Jaeger will definitely be in there, though. Still kind of torn on what to do with Keith Mitchell. I like him, but feels like his biggest weapon is the driver. But he does have 4 straight made cuts at this event. He's gained about 20 strokes on the field, but he's just been so erratic over the last 4 or 5 months that it worries me to play him. So I like Jaeger in here, maybe McCarthy a little bit. If it turns into a putting contest, what do you like in the 8Ks?
Yeah, I like both those guys. I think I tagged Jaeger as a expert play, kind of a low owned guy, which we usually don't get him low ownership. I think everyone's just tired of his T25 finishes, but maybe he can avoid that blow up round. He always is at the top of the leaderboard and then blows up. Also like Brendan Todd, anytime you get him on a short Bermuda track, he's been in awesome form for like 6 months. The irons have really gotten better. One of the best putters, one of the most accurate drivers of the ball, and the wedges are good. So I think Brendan Todd at less than 10% ownership makes some sense too. Outside of that, maybe Billy Horschel. He's been playing so well overseas. I don't know if you've been.
No, I have not been paying attention, nor do I want to.
Man, he's so last 5 events, 4th, 18th, 20th, 14th. Nope. Still no. And Bermuda.
Where's he been playing? What tour is this?
This is just the DP World Tour.
Why has he been playing so much on there? I wasn't even aware that he was playing that much out over there.
Let's pull up
He was always
a couple of them were strong fields too.
Let me be clear. I'm not playing him no matter what you tell me, but we can talk about it.
All right. So, yeah, he played the Dunhill Links Championship, which is at St. Andrews, T14, the Open de France, T20, the BMW PGA Championship, which has a good field, T18, and then actually finished 4th at the Wyndham not too long ago. So, yeah, the form's good, but, yeah, to your point, doesn't project well, and he's Billy Horschel.
That was his first top 10 in an individual stroke. The Wyndham was his first top 10 in a PGA Tour event in 10 months. He did have a T9 at the match play, so he got eliminated in the round of 16. And then he had a top 10 at 11th place at the team event, the Zurich Classic. But otherwise, quite a few miscuts and no top 10s for almost a year. But again, I've always been an anti-Horschel guy, even when he was like luck boxing his way into good finishes by holing out from 50 feet 4 times a tournament. I've always kind of been anti-Horschel for DFS purposes. So take that with a grain of salt. If you like the form over in Europe, go for it. All right. Otherwise, I mean, not much here at the bottom of the range. Akshay, Spawn is okay. Nobody that I'm racing out to get. Smalley had a lot of ownership last week. He's back at 8K this week. But anything else above 8K here before we round that out?
Yeah, I have a little of Spawn and Smalley. I think both of them are pretty good ball strikers. Kind of take your chances with the putter. But yeah, I think both of them are interesting. Some good finishes here in the past, and I am cheering for Horschel. I mean, ever since he came out with that interview and just started crying, how hard golf is and all that, I thought that was pretty endearing. And he's one of those guys. He'll wear his heart on his sleeve, one way or the other.
This is true. Definitely can't deny that. All right. Let's see. I don't think anything else above 8K for me either. I'll dip down into the 7Ks to kind of get round out those rosters, I guess, where I start with the 9K range. I know Hondizel likes Harris English a lot this week. That was his kind of bold call pick for a dark horse winner in our content. Chris Kirk fits the profile of a guy who should play well here, though he's missed the cut 3 of the last 4 years at this event. Villegas coming off a win. Champ, big driver. Montgomery has just been horrible with everything except the putter. I think you go down below 7,700 here. I mean, you got Pendrith is way too cheap. Schmid is coming off his second strong finish in a row. Ben Griffin's really cheap. You got Schenk. It's at, like, to me, you go to that 72 to 7,600 range and you get your exposure there. But any interest in the top part of the range for you? The Kirk, English, Thompson, anybody there do anything for you?
Yeah, Kirk's another one of the Sea Island Mafia that doesn't play well here, so they're adding up. But yeah, he is a good course fit on paper. I think Davis Thompson's interesting. He's been a top 35 machine in the fall, and he's played here 4 times. So he must have played here as an amateur.
Yeah, or I think he got a sponsor invite or something for some reason when he was an amateur.
Been real bad the last 3 times outside of the top 130, but he's playing his best golf of his career, so I don't mind that. So I'm guessing you're just eating the chocolate Pendrith. That's kind of my.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, he's just too cheap. He's got 3 top 15s in a row, I believe. I don't know. I would have expected him to be 8,500.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do play him, just try to differentiate elsewhere. I'm on board too. He's also got 26th and 15th place finishes here the last couple of years. Talked about Ben Griffin, like him a lot. He's been playing well, T29 here last year. Matty Schmid's been playing pretty well. He's got a couple top 3 finishes recently. Shank's a guy that putted well and hits his irons well, so I'll be on him. And then I've talked about Nicholas Lindheim a lot during this fall season, and nobody ever plays him. He's at 3% ownership once again. I don't think he's missed a cut in a long time. And if you look at we don't have a lot of stats on him this year, but when he was on the PGA Tour, a couple years ago, he was a very good iron player. So I think it's a pretty good course setup for him.
Yeah, if you sort the plays in the field by Noto's rating per dollar here in our lineup HQ tool, obviously the cheaper guys tend to do well there simply because that's algebra and they've got a lower denominator for rating per dollar. But Lindheim is actually number 2 in that metric if you sort by that this week, behind only Schenk, who you also just mentioned there. No surprise that Pendrith is up there as well. So this mid 7K range, I think, is where you're going to see a lot of people go to kind of round out those lineups. Go with the lower to mid 9K guys, and then this 7K range. I think lots of those guys are interesting. Have you abandoned the Mark Hubbard train yet?
I was just gonna say I play Mark Hubbard every week, so you can just you don't have to ask me. He was fine last week, and he's a good iron player. So yeah, I'll play Mark Hubbard. The one guy that's interesting to me, Sam Ryder. I'm typically lower than everyone else on him for whatever reason. He just never rates out well for me. And this week he's pretty low owned, and he rates out really well for me. So the fact that he has bad course history, I think, is scaring everybody off.
Yeah, I think he's okay in that range. Vince Whaley was like 18% owned last week. That was the one, like the Bo Hostler of the week. Like, where did the Vince Whaley chalk come from last week? And he played well.
Everyone was sorting by the Noto ratings per dollar.
Was he up there last week?
Yeah, he was in my main lineup. Not that it did anything, but
no, I didn't hate it. I just didn't expect it to be all right. So Noto's moving the needle. I just saw that. Like, he was like 6 under through like 12 on the first day. So all the Whaley lineups were at the top of the leaderboards, and I click on him like, holy smokes, he's 16% owned. I don't mind it this week at 6%. I mean, maybe he ends up coming in a little higher than that. He's okay. And a Webb Simpson, if you want to trust course history. Han Dizzle's got Simpson tag. He always likes Webb Simpson, though. He's a Webb Simpson guy. I like your thoughts on Ryder there. I think he's super interesting at lower ownership this week. And then the guy that I kind of like that scares me is Ryan Moore, who feels like he hasn't been relevant for DFS purposes for like 5 years. He was injured for a while, and then had kind of a run of bad results, and we see this a lot with a lot of guys. And though he is older, I mean he's 40, but you look at the last 3 tournaments: T13, T38, T5. His last 11 rounds have all been under 70. So it's a shorter course. You don't have to be long off the tee. Ryan Moore's certainly not long off the tee. He's at 7.1K. We've got him at about 6% ownership. So lots of guys in here that I think are semi-viable. And once we get to the bottom of the 7K range, usually we're down to just picking maybe 1 or 2 names to plug your nose and maybe play this week. But I think there's some interesting options. You can make a case for Neesmith as well. Martin Laird's been playing okay. I think I'm off the Troy Merritt train this week. He didn't play well last week. But anybody else here? I mean, we can basically go into the 6Ks now too if you like. It does thin out down there. But who else you got?
Yeah, I do like Whaley again this week. He actually lives in Georgia, not on this island, so I think that's a positive for him. We talked about Ryder. Ryan Moore, has he ever played here before? I haven't seen any results the last 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know if he played here before that. A little bit weird that
perfect course fit for him.
You would think so. Yeah, I mean, it surprises me if he hasn't, but yeah, I didn't go back beyond 2019 either. So, but that did surprise me too. But maybe he's just now he's healthy again, so he's going to try to get as many starts in as he can.
Yeah, probably needs them. You mentioned Neesmith, 3 top 30s here, good iron player. Carl Yuan's been playing really good. He's got 2 top 6s recently, was 4th last week. He's played here a couple times. And then once we get into the 6s, it's a lot less appealing for me. Do you have any real standouts?
Yeah, not really. I like a lot of those guys at the bottom end of the 7K range. Let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through now to see. Kisner all the way down at 6,800. Noto's boy Kevin Roy there as well at that same price.
He played well last week.
Yes, he did. I saw him creeping up there a little bit. Thought of you.
His twin brother was dead last or whatever. The fake twin brother.
Ryan Gerard,
62 for Ben Taylor. He used to be good last year.
A lot of these guys used to be good.
Form isn't that bad. He's one of the better putters in the field.
If you need a YOLO guy, my Wesley Bryan from last week, there you go. There's one of them. Ryan Gerard at 6,300, I think, is okay as well. And And it looks like his rating in your model is a little more stomachable than a lot of the others down in the lower 6Ks. So I probably won't go down here. I don't think you need to this week. If you wanted to play Russell Knox last week, I guess you can play him again. I think I'm good there, but he's 11th in this field in approach over the last 36 rounds. So T40, T21 here the last 2 years. Shorter course, you could do worse than pegging Russell Knox here at 6,600. So there you go. Go back to the dance with who brung you. Even though it's been a while.
A recent win for Grayson Murray. Where was that? Corn Ferry?
Yeah, I think so. I remember hearing about that now.
He's got 2 recent wins on the Corn Ferry Tour.
The Simmons Bank Open, that was in September.
Any Grayson interest?
I don't know. I still don't like him because he blocked me on Twitter like 6 years ago. Like old grudges die hard. But no, probably not here. Too much water, not enough benefit for him to be able to smack it, 350 off the tee. Yeah, it's a pass for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Probably a pass for me too.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up here. We'll start to see, some of the regular names back in the rotation once we get to the new year. We'll start off with the Tournament of Champions. We usually don't do a show for that one because it's only 30 some odd golfers, but then we kind of get into a pretty regular rhythm there from mid-January through the summer. And we'll have a new group of PGA Tour members they used to start up during this fall swing, but they'll start up in January. So some new faces, some new names for us to discuss, but that's going to be a good 6 weeks down the road yet as we look at the Sony Open in Hawaii being the first full field event, and that starts on January 11th. So, Noto, anything else to pass along before we go to a holiday break here?
Yeah. Did you see with the PGA Tour app, you can have the shot-by-shot data onto your lock screen?
Really?
Which is pretty cool. So you start your guy, and every shot of his will come up on your lock screen. But you can't even pull up the leaderboard. Why can't we just have a little thing that shows like it used to be? It drives me crazy that I have to click into it every time.
Yeah, I know, it's horrible. It takes.
Now I gotta just do the lock screen thing.
So how do you do that?
It's just
I gotta test this on the fly here.
And then each shot it'll pull up the guy. And last week all you could get was like shot 1 from the fairway or whatever. But
right, but
it should be working.
Oh, interesting. Well, at least they are kind of advancing that technology a little bit, and we'll have the full shot-by-shot data for the one course this week. So we'll see how that works. Probably end up getting annoyed with too much stuff coming to my phone, but we'll see.
Have 40 golfers start and just every shot.
every. Well, Thursday, I have to go to Chicago. I have been summoned to be a field trip chaperone because our youngest, informed me that I chaperoned for a couple of his brother's field trips and have not done any of his over their schooling life. So we're going to Chicago for that on Thursday. And then this weekend on Saturday, we're going back to Chicago, unrelated, because we had a weekend trip planned, and we're going to a Heat Bulls game on Saturday. So
nice.
I've never been to an NBA game. Been to tons of sporting events. I've never been to an NBA game.
Are the Bulls gonna have a team left by?
I don't. Probably not. It surprised me how expensive the Bulls tickets were for just a upper level type seat. I know. I didn't have a baseline because obviously most of my sporting event history has been baseball, and those tickets tend to run a little bit cheaper. But I don't know, good experience. They were just going up to Chicago for the weekend, so having that the ping on my lock screen might help because I'll be running out and about this weekend quite a bit. But
nice,
they're playing the Heat, so we'll see Jimmy Butler revenge game for maybe until he ends up sitting out or something. But or he's missed a few games. So I'm not doing NBA content, so I'm a little out of the loop. Is he hurt? or is he just resting?
He's back tonight.
Okay. All right. So hopefully he's playing Saturday in Chicago. Anyway, give me something to monitor there. But in any case, we are going to be out of here for about 6 weeks on the golf show. We'll get a little break. We'll come back refreshed. The 6-week break for the winter always feels like about 6 months. So by the time January's here, we'll be revved up for just that 30-man tournament of champions in January. But until then, we hope you all enjoy the holiday season, enjoy the start of winter and a little break from DFS golf. Thanks to Steve for producing every Tuesday night behind the glass for us. Thanks to Noto for joining me. I am Justin, and we'll see you back here in the new year. Everybody take care.